Awesome. Okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Tanya Lerch. I work at Sage Hill School, which is in Newport in Southern California. And I have been part of the E-Nable community for many years. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and about a course I teach and how we incorporate service learning in our fabrication course. So first, what is E-Nable? So for anybody who has not heard of E-Nable, E-Nable is a nonprofit organization that was started over 10 years ago. And the goal was to link people who had 3D printers, people who had design background, people who had prosthetic backgrounds, with people who were willing to make prosthetics free or at low cost for people who needed them, because there's a huge hole in the prosthetic industry where people who aren't fully grown. So typically people under the age of 18 don't get approved for a prosthetic. And then even ones who do get approved when they're older or when insurance covers it, it's the copays and the expenses can still be $10,000 or more. And when they are, even if they are, that's if they're covered. And if they're not covered, they're usually like $30,000. And kids, because they grow so fast, they outgrow prosthetics and they find them heavy. So this wonderful organization was started really just to help introduce prosthetics into the lives of a variety of people who might be interested. So E-Nable is all volunteer based, and over the years it has really grown with various people all over the world creating different designs for various prosthetics and different types of like arms and hands and different types of anatomy people might need. And all of the designs and information are open source. And so really anybody who has access to a printer can print them. There's different levels of difficulty, and you kind of have to go through these badging processes to get approved, but it's very kind of beginner friendly, especially if you are printing one of the more basic models. So I started a chapter of under E-Nable to help connect with people at a school I taught at in New York. And then when we moved to California, I brought that here. And it was first just a service learning project. My school has service learning and I now oversee service learning. So I had started it that way, but we found that it wasn't enough time to really get the students, we're a high school, involved and really learning the process. So eventually I proposed it as a course, which has UC accreditation. And this coming year will be our 4th year teaching the course. And it's awesome. It's been very popular. We have 2 sections coming up this year of it. So we'll have almost 40 students involved in it, which is awesome. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about my course and some of the things we do. So first, I want to give an overview of our service learning model at our school. Again, I am the director of service learning, so I have a hand in all of the grade levels while also kind of working on this smaller project. So at our school, service learning occurs on one Wednesday a month. We have no classes, and students go out in the community and do a variety of service work. It is a graduation requirement. We don't track hours in a traditional way, but students are required to participate and do makeup work if they are absent. Freshmen and sophomores have a very specific service learning program and itinerary set for all of their Wednesdays. Juniors and seniors are able to actually pitch independent projects and special interest projects, or join in with some kind of smaller special interest faculty-led projects. All of those faculty-led special interest projects can be seen on the right. And my class has an attached project where we are making these prosthetics, and we call it 3D Prosthetics. So it's one of the service projects juniors and seniors can opt into in our STEAM and innovation service learning menu. You must be enrolled in my course in order to work on the prosthetics. And I'll definitely take questions, et cetera, after. So I wanted to give an overview of the course itself, because it's not just a course on doing prosthetics. So it is what we call a hybrid connected model, which means that most of the, it's not as much class time. It's a lot of instructional material, which are in the form of videos, tutorials that are through our online learning platform that I post and the students do remotely. So they get, it's not fully asynchronous because they do have assignments, but most of that, I never stand in front of the class and lecture and teach things. And it also, what's really nice about this is when I filmed a lot of the videos and the instructional videos, it gave me the ability to really show details, like go into the printers and be able to show that, which would be really difficult with a group of 20 students to all gather around and kind of try to see what I was pointing at if I'm pointing at something in the back. So I have a series of videos, I have a series of assignments and tutorials and online quizzes, which is how they're learning things. And then we meet together 3 times a week from 7:35 to 8:55, give or take. So it's about 30 minutes, 3 times a week before school starts. And then that's our only FaceTime. And that's where kids come and they ask questions, they meet with project group members, they might start a print for the day, and then they have to come in independently during their free time as needed to work on their projects. So whether that's lunch, a free block, before or after school, they have access. If they're in my class, they're the only ones using these printers and they have access to the printers. And you can kind of see this picture here is where our printers are set up. We are in a library and my office is right outside of the printers. The groups have bins where they keep all of the things that they're printing and working on to assemble. And this course also has what we call Sage Center designation, which means that it incorporates one of our signature programs like service learning, and it touches on a variety of DEI aspects throughout the course while also giving our students a chance for self-reflection, kind of peer reflection on kind of more DEI topics, which come up a lot because we get recipients for prosthetics from all over the world. We have conversations over helping to match skin tone, different abilities, different anatomies, and we also meet a lot of people in person that we work with. So it really fits our Sage Center designation model. In terms of funding, so this is a question that I get a lot from teachers at other schools, like how are you paying for printers and materials? Because when we do any of these projects, the students are not paying for things. When we make prosthetics, the recipients aren't paying. So it is a combination of grants I've applied for, donations which have come from families or people in our community. And then we do have some money in our school budget when we need to, for smaller purchases, such as replenishing filament or mailing out a prosthetic to somebody who might not be local. And then I wanted to show my room setup and access. So here are the printers. This is in close proximity to where I am all day. And this is pretty important as it's important to be able to monitor the printers and the students. Our school does not have a dedicated maker space. We have different courses all over our campus working with 3D printers or other similar type tools and materials, which has been a challenge, but this has been our current setup. And so I would recommend for anyone starting a course like this, making sure that there is a space in whatever classroom the teacher is in where students can come in and work quietly if they need to, or at least have some supervision with the printers. I also have a set of tools. So this is an open cabinet in my office that are labeled. And then behind me, and you can probably actually see this, I'm in my office now, a bunch of our hanging tools, things are labeled. So students are able to come in and out. And part of the course at the beginning is they're learning where everything is here, do work. And I am typically in and out or here in my office, and they're able to do their independent project work outside of that early morning course time. So the course modules, I'm not going to go into huge depth of these, but I can share a link to this presentation after for anyone interested. So it's a 2-semester course. And as I mentioned, we don't just do prosthetics. So we start very basic. It's an intro course. The course is Introduction to 3D Printing and 3D Design. So we talk, we start with the introduction. We have the 4 Ultimaker printers. So we go through in very great detail how to maintain the printers, how to use them, how to troubleshoot prints. Then the students learn Cura, the slicing software, same thing. They are in a variety of small group projects. They're working on sample prints for a variety of print settings and Cura slicing settings. Then we move into the prosthetics where they learn about the E-Nable community to make sample hand devices. They learn about printing in a printing happens in PLA, but we often have designs that use flexible material. Sometimes we need more durable material like ABS or PETG, or that's more heat resistant. And also some other prosthetic attachments or extensions that some recipients might be interested in. Oops, sorry. And then finally, once the sample prosthetics are completed and students have pretty much, gone through that process, they are then paired with an actual recipient where they will be making that prosthetic for them. So there's all sorts of communication. The students really take the lead in communicating with either the recipient or their parent if it's a younger child, and they customize it based on color, interests, sometimes the design, some extra, flair that some people might want. Are kind of underway. The printing process can take a while, same with assembly. When students are in a good place with that, we start out some other kind of design levels, and they're just scaling and measuring. But once we get kind of into the more advanced portion of it, then students are able to start learning the design process so that they can really do some more customization. So it's still pretty basic. We're doing a couple of the things we do before the semester ends is teach them how to insert a pause into a G code and switch filament colors. And they convert sound waves into 3D printed objects. They print lithophanes, postscripts, etc. Semester 2 is where we get into the design aspect. So in semester 2, we're really working with the formal fabrication. OnShape is my preferred CAD software. I like that it's you don't have to download anything. It's free for education use. I like that it's almost like Google Docs. It's always up to date. So they go through, I have a variety of tutorials and I'm going to give a quick example after on OnShape. And then once they've mastered that, we kind of go into more advanced OnShape where the tutorials move faster. I might leave things out for the students to do themselves. We also learn about scanning. So we have an occipital scanner and we use Meshmixer software, which is a little bit more of an artsy program for kind of cleaning up scans, almost like molding. It feels more sculptural. And we tie that to prosthetics as well when they can use that to make custom prosthetic sockets. And all along while they're doing these things, semester 2 students get a second recipient to work with. We shuffle the groups around. So they're working the groups are typically about 3 to 4 students. So they'll be working on that simultaneously as they are going through the design assignments as well. Because at this point, this is their third prosthetic and they can, work with the printers and the assembly while they're doing the design work. We have some independent projects that are kind of basic and then they get more challenging. And that's essentially where we wrap this semester. And I'm going to take you through a couple of examples of those. So here's some sample tutorials and projects and assignments that are non-prosthetics. So first example is early in the semester where they are just learning about their printers and they're kind of doing their very first print. One of them will be printing with supports. So they have to print a pyramid, but they're printing it in a, not an intuitive orientation just to get them practicing with supports. They're working with PLA, they can change the color. And again, I have a whole assignment for this. Some of them choose to use dissolvable support. We have dual extruders for 3 of our printers. Most of them, it's faster. They'll just use the printable support that breaks away. And so this is an example of a very basic project, and they'll do this again in a group of 3, and then they leave it on a Post-it with their name for me to grade once it's complete. And then there's a reflection process after. Here's a tutorial for second semester when they're working with OnShape and they're learning the CAD software.
All right, so we're going to be
We'll skip through my voice, but so as you'll see is I have a YouTube video, it's 21 minutes. And what's nice about this again is they do this on their own. And so what most of the students do is they'll have a phone or an iPad playing the video of me going through, making this dice and aligning everything and doing it in OnShape. And then they will pause as needed and on their computer work through the steps themselves. For some of the more advanced students, what I tell them to do is to watch a greater portion before they pause and then recreate the steps. And some of them I even say, don't watch the tutorial. See if you can, once they're really getting the hang of it, like this is tutorial 14. So at this point, they've been working through tutorials for a few weeks. Some of them I can just show the final image and say, give it your best shot. Like, see if you can come up with this on your own. And then go back and watch the tutorial and see, how close did you get on your own? So it's nice because there's opportunities for differentiation. Here's a good example of a challenge project. Whoops. Here's an example of a challenge project where, sorry, where did my slideshow go? Which is the students have to design a phone stand and print it, and it can't be any bigger than the dimensions of a credit card. And then they have to film a little commercial that demonstrates how this works. And so here is an example of a student commercial. I'll play it because it's a minute and it's cute. So it's cute because they get, a chance to show their personality. And I have another one where the students are a little bit less outgoing and they don't appear in their commercial at all, but they use Blender to actually do a digital rendering and just show, and they like have, they don't have a voiceover or anything. They just have like text that shows up, and it's also beautifully well done. So again, just kind of going back to the like DI, the different learning, the different personalities. So just different ways of accomplishing and demonstrating their work, that is suited to the students. This isn't an AP, we're not prepping for an AP. We don't have I made the curriculum, so I have the goals I want them to accomplish. And it's nice that we get a chance to so we'll spend one of our morning blocks, 20 minutes, and we'll go through all 10 videos and, applaud. And everyone has totally different designs by the end of it, which is really cool. So that's an example of one of our challenge projects. Here's a progression of assignments for when we do the prosthetic work. So, and the different software. So Tracker software is a software open source that allows you to take virtual measurements from pictures. So when we get our recipients, one of the things we ask for is a clear picture of both of their hands or arms outstretched with a ruler on it. And we can use that as a calibration stick through the virtual Tracker software. So we can take measurements without requiring recipients to come in and be measured. For when we are making any sort of device that incorporates an arm socket and we need circumference, we do ask them to take a measurement and send it to us. And we also ask for a picture of that. And there's a series of, very specific measurements we need. So we have a document that we send depending on their anatomy. OpenSCAD is used to render the STLs in the correct sizing. And so that is another software that's very unintuitive. So we have a lesson on that where they practice doing that. This is all things that they first learn when they do their sample prosthetic before they actually work with a human. So I have an older recipient whose, pictures all the students make a hand or arm for, so that they're all kind of working consistently before they move on to actually receive a real life human that they will be working with. Again, we explore the different prosthetics. They do their sample prints. Once those get approved, then they do learn about their recipients. Another question I get is, where do the recipients come from? So E-Nable has a hub, a website where you can get digital badges for all of the sample devices you've printed, and you submit videos and pictures, you get a digital badge, and then you can see requests from people all over the world who want a prosthetic. And if you have a badge that matches one of the designs that would work with their anatomy, you can get connected to them. So we get a lot of our international or recipients outside of California that way. Local outreach, I'll have students who they might be on a trip, they might be, out in the community. And again, like we have a lot of conversations over how we work these into conversation in an appropriate manner. But people have, at least one a year, we'll get one. Someone's like, I met somebody, we were talking about my class, they had a broken prosthetic, they were interested, or someone has a friend of a friend, that sort of thing happens at least once a year. We'll get someone like that. Direct requests, we have a form on our website. I'll pull up my website at the end where people can request a device. Old recipients. So we have recipients that we started making hands for 8 to 10 years ago, and they were 4 years old, and now they're 14, and they maybe no longer want like a Lego themed hand as a 14-year-old. So, and they've obviously grown, and we've also had improvements to some of the designs, or maybe we're beta testing a new design and we reach out to someone and say, hey, we made you a prosthetic 2 years ago. Do you want to try this new design? Or this was something we're trying to do. So we've established some pretty long-standing relationships with these families that we reach out to, every kind of 2 to 3 years to see if they're interested in a new device. And Helping Hands is an organization that has chapters all over. There is one in Southern California. And so we get some local recipients that way. So local recipients are our preference because they do come in to try their prosthetic. We can make final adjustments, and it's always really awesome to meet the person in person, but we've been able to Zoom with people and all over. We had a recipient in South Africa. We had one in Sri Lanka this year. And the international shipping, we've had some challenges with it, but we've also had a lot of success, which is super cool too. So, and then the final step is printing and delivering the prosthetics to recipients. And then we always make sure to update our website. So I'll pull this up so everyone can see our website. The website is fully student run. So every year I have a junior and a senior. So the senior has worked on it already, and then they kind of mentor the junior to take over the website on the back end, and then it gets passed on that way. So this is our website. There's cool things on it. Here's a bunch of frequently asked questions I receive. Here is like question like this, like, how can I become a recipient? This is where people will click and and then it blasts off an email to us that they can request. This is the best part of our website, is we keep track of all of our recipients. So these are the ones from this past school year, which will move into the archive in September. In our archive, these are all recipients we've made in the past. You can see some of them appear a few times because we made them an updated hand. And so here's a great example of, this is a recipient we made a hand for. This is the second time we worked with her. She had a challenging anatomy because she has a very small residual. So there's not a ton of leverage in her elbow kind of bending. She also wanted bright colors. She wanted it to light up. She wanted an attachment so she could play the guitar. So this was something my students designed. They printed this in flexible material on a Velcro band so she could use a guitar pick. So so what's nice about this is, as a good example, when we get requests from new recipients, I can direct them. I can say, oh yes, we had someone with similar anatomy or similar age. And so this way new recipients can see the work we've done and kind of see if they're interested. And they can also, get to see the different designs that we make. And then they get to see who is working exactly on, so here's our class, here are the teachers. So they get to, it becomes a little bit more personalized. And so we really try to keep this up to date every time we finish and deliver a device. And that is it. So here is my email. And as I just mentioned, we have a lot of questions that get answered a lot on the prosthetics website. But I will share a link to this presentation as well. And if anybody has questions, let me know.